Steve Harvey is arguably one of the most influential entertainers of our time. But success for him was far from guaranteed, and it didn't come overnight.
I used to spend the night in hotel parking lots, and I said, come on, God, man, I've been trying to make this dream come true. You done left me out here like this. And I was crying so hard that he just said, I didn't hear a voice or nothing, but he spoke to me, and however, he said, if you get up, I'm gonna take you places you ain't never been.
You'll rarely find somebody this honest and this transparent about how they got where they are today. As I sit with Steve, I can't help but admire his perseverance and grit. And while he's admittedly a crier like I am, he's not afraid to laugh along the way. How long have you been on TV, Steve Harvey?
Since 1994.
Okay, the Law and Order, has that been on that long? I mean, it's just like you and Law and Order and things. You guys have been on.
I feel like that. I've been on a lot of shows, though, you know. It ain't been a real consistent run, you know.
But you know what's funny? When you're on a lot, people have a chance to get used to it, but they also have a chance to get tired of you, and that's why people don't last. Why do you think you've lasted on the air throughout all these different kind of machinations?
Well, my longest run has been Family Feud.
Yeah.
I think it's authenticity.
Yeah.
I think people really, really enjoy somebody who's honest. I mean, that's what's kept you on the air this long.
Yeah.
People know they can tune in and get a real opinion, good or bad, agree or disagree. They're going to get an honest opinion from a person. I think authenticity has kept me.
Were you always authentic, Steve, or did you do sometimes what the TV business tells you to do? Be more like that. Be less like that. Gotta be like
you know
him.
what happened? The first year I got on TV, they told me, you talk too country. And if you don't change that, you won't be able to last on television. And I didn't know what to do with that, because what else was I going to be? I mean, you know, I don't really have a lot of good grammar in me, and this is how I am. And I've made this, you know, my career started as a comedian.
Yeah.
And my objective was to make people laugh. That was it. You know, I didn't have no other objective. So I didn't understand adjusting for the system. And I told the lady I won't be participating in that change. They even hired a linguistics coach.
But you
for
said
me.
no?
I didn't know because back then I didn't know what linguistics meant. I thought she was in here to teach me how to fix pasta. And so I was excited about that. And then when I found out she was in there talking about the way I talk, and I told the lady, she said, I'm your linguistics coach. And I said, well, I ain't finna do all that. She said, excuse me? I said, I ain't finna do all that. She said, did you hear what you just said? Could you repeat it slowly? I said, I ain't finna do all that. She said, that's exactly why I'm here. I said, man, I'm not finna change the way I talk. She said, you keep saying fitna. What is that? I said, well, let me put it to you this way. Which one of these sounds best to you? I am broke or I'm is rich? Because right now I'm is rich, and that's what I'm going to go with. And that was the end of the conversation.
By the way, that's brilliant. Can I ask you something? Because to get where you are, I'm sure a lot of people have wondered how. Somehow in the very beginning, someone has to look you square in the eye as a little boy and say, Steve, like, you got something special. Who did that for you?
Ray Davis. I know the exact name. He was a psychology teacher in high school. His name's Ray Davis. It was 1974. He came to my house at night, and I lived in the hood, man, and it was really, I lived really in the hood. You know, I'm older, so there was no integration. I grew up in segregation. And white guy came to my house at night, which was very dangerous to do. And he got threatened when he got out the car, and he came up to my door, and he set my parents down. He said, your son is something special. But if he doesn't stop hanging with these two guys that he's hanging with in school, he's going to go down the wrong path. That was a turning point for my life. That was the first time somebody told me I had something special going on. He went back to get in his car. A group of hoodlums gathered around. My father came out on the front porch with his gun and said, leave him alone. He got in his car, he drove off. The two dudes that he told me to stop hanging with are inmates today. that was the game changer for me. He was the first person that told me I was going to be something. And then a girl named Ida Knowles in college told me, she said, "You're wasting your time here. I don't know why you're here.
Why?
You should be a star." And I was a star.
Wait, what did they see? What did your teacher see? What did Ida see?
I don't know. You know, I had a special way with words. I had such a sharp wit, even as a child. My mother was a Sunday school teacher, right? Mm-hmm. She used to take me to church on Friday nights to prayer meeting to get me prayed for. Because my son, he just says whatever's on his mind, and it's going to get him in trouble. And I stayed in trouble. And so I've always had a really, really quick wit. And I wanted to be on TV since I was 10, you know, but you couldn't tell nobody. You grew up in the hood, who are you going to tell that to? I'm going to be on TV. So that was my dream, and I just stayed with it and kept thinking about it.
Well, it sounds like you were imagining it since you're so little, but there's imagining, which is really dreaming, and then there's doing. They're two different things, because one of them's a dream and one's kind of a plan. How did you go from, boy, I sure want to do it, which a lot of people listening want to do something, to saying, all I need is one, just open the door for me, one break?
You know, it was really an accident. You know, God gives everybody at one point in their life the opportunity. Everybody gets the shot to make the decision to go left or right. Everybody gets that shot. Don't say you don't. You can stop that. You had it, or you getting it. And you chose not to, or you chose to. And I was 27 years old. I was writing jokes for a comedian named A.J. Jamal. I had no idea what he was doing with the jokes. He told me he was doing special gigs and stuff. And so I would write jokes for him. He said, "Hey, man, Steve, what would you say?" And I'd tell him what to say. And he paid me $10 for a joke. I was making an extra $30 a week. I thought this is 1985. I'm living good. And one day, I was at his house giving him these jokes on paper. I worked at a company called General Electric. And this girl came over named Gladys Jacobs, and she said, "You the guy that's writing these jokes for A.J. Jamal?" I said, I don't know what he's doing with him. She said, "He's the funniest guy at the comedy club." I went, "What?" She said, "He's the funniest guy at the comedy club." And I didn't write all of his jokes. I just wrote some. And I said, "Comedy club, what's that?" She said, "What do you mean? You don't know what he's doing with his jokes?" She said, "Why don't you tell the jokes yourself?" So she said, "I'm going to pick you up Tuesday night, take you to the comedy club." I'd never heard of the Cleveland Comedy Club, never heard of Hilarities. I was 27 years old. And she took me to the comedy club, and I signed up for the following week. Somebody got scared that night and didn't go, so they had 10 performers that night. They got to number 9. I was sitting there, I didn't laugh at anybody. I was just sitting there looking at them, saying what I thought they should have said. And they got to number 10, and they called his name, and he wasn't there. And they said, "Hey, we're going to go to the next week's list. Where's Steve Harvey?" And I was eating some chicken wings and drinking grapefruit juice. And I turned to the girl, Gladys, who I was with, and I said, "It's a dude in here got the same name I got." And I went, "Well," and they called me up, and I ran up on stage.
And
I won amateur night. I won $50.
Holy moly.
I went to work. That was October 8th, 1985.
Holy moly.
I went to work the next day, quit my job. Told everybody I was a professional comedian. I had $50.
And you just kept at it.
Well, I became homeless and ended up living in a car for 3 years. And
what made you stay with it? Because I think once you just said that God gives you an opportunity. Some people might think, if I'm sleeping in my car for 3 years and I'm not making it, God is telling me something. He's telling me this isn't your path. You either decide this isn't your path or try harder.
Right.
How did you know what he was telling you to do?
Well, for starters, I didn't have a plan B. I never believed in a plan B. Everybody that I know that has a plan B has had to use it. Everybody that I know that had a plan B used the plan B. Because in order to fix the plan B, you can't give your all to A. So everybody I know with a plan B used the plan B. I'd never had the plan B. This was it. And it was many days I felt like giving up. You know, I'm human, you know. There was a lot of days I didn't think I was going to make it. There was a lot of days I said, "Man, this ain't the best idea." But I ain't have another one. You know, I had nothing. So, you know, I think a lot of it was really my mother praying for me. I think a lot of it was I just didn't want to go back home and say I was a failure because I'd already flunked out of college. I'd already messed my marriage up. I had already, lost friends and family members. Everybody thought when I said I was going to go be a comedian, this is the stupidest thing you could have ever said. I mean, you're an idiot. I mean, people stopped talking to me because of that. They thought it was, I don't even want to know a person who just walks away from their job like that. But I didn't know any other way to do it. I mean, you're either going to jump or you're not. I don't know if there's ever, the right time. The right time is now, because if you're waiting on your ducks to get lined up, it doesn't happen.
So if people are listening and they, they've got a lot of faith in them too, and they want to know what message they're getting, how did you know that it was because you said at one point you didn't hear God, but you knew what he was telling you or how he was guiding you, because sometimes it can be confusing. Yeah. Is he telling me to switch? Is he telling me to stay?
Well, but here's something a minister told me one time that kind of sticks with me. God's voice has no sin in it. His voice never has sin in it. So, you hear people say, well, the God told me to go down there and tell them people. No, he didn't. That's not what he told you to do. God told me to fight. No, God didn't tell you to do that.
That's so profound.
His voice has no sin in it. So sometimes when you're listening and you hear the naysayers, a naysayer is a negative. A naysayer is a hater. A naysayer is an impossibility. None of that defines God. You've got to really understand, man, that at one point in time, you've got to just rely on faith. Faith is the belief in things that you cannot see. You've got to know that. It's hard, though, and I'll be the first to tell you, it's hard, and you don't know sometimes. You're sitting up here trying to figure out, is that the way to go or is that the way to go? Maybe I should turn back. Why would God tell you to turn back? I mean, you got to listen. Old people used to say, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. Old people know got a lot of information, man. And it sounds old, corny stuff when you're in church listening to old people, but they coming from years of experience. And you've got to understand, man, if you're going down a path and it feels right, and all of a sudden, just cause something starts going wrong, all of a sudden it don't feel right no more, that don't mean it ain't. You got to be tested and challenged, You got to see if you really want it. You got to pass tests. And you just got to keep realizing that if you wake up and you pass a test and you're still on that path, you might as well keep going. One of my accountants years ago gave me a plaque that said, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
Keep going.
I mean, this is not a good place to stop in the middle of hell. Put the brakes on here,
You are that was very profound, what you just said. All of that was very profound. It just hit in a way that I didn't expect. I feel like you're constantly evolving. And when you have a tough time, because obviously being in the spotlight, anyone can have a tough time. We don't know about it. You have a tough time. Everybody knows about it. How do you, those potholes, how do you get out of it? How do you get back up?
It's hard. It really is. It's not like I got this magic trick. I'm Steve Harvey. I just get up and keep moving. It don't bother me. Yeah, it does, man.
It does.
It hurts me. It trips me up. It feels real heavy sometimes. And like you say, when you're in the spotlight, you don't get to live your mistakes under the cloak of darkness. You make a mistake, Hoda, you're on TV. You can't. And they're going to talk about you without all the information. And, you got to develop a tough skin. But the key is you got to, and the older you get, the better you should get at this. But if I was a younger person and I could tell myself something, I would say what I heard Tom Hanks say one time. If I could tell a younger me one thing, I would tell myself, this too shall pass. Because, man, all of it does. See, you got a trip like this, Listen, Look at every single thing you've ever gone through, every critical moment, every bad decision, every heartbreak, every setback, every moment of misery. Think of all of that that's happened to you. Your survival rate for surviving hard, insurmountable, unthinkable hard times, your survival rate is 100%. Everybody, we're batting 1,000. Every last one of us, our survival rate is 1,000%. We've never not made it. So as you get older, you become better at that. But as you're younger, I would say to younger people, this too shall pass. Trust and believe you're going to get past that. Oh, it might seem impossible right now, and it might seem like it's lasting a lot longer than it should. But, I mean, look, man, this is going to go away. And you just got to believe that it's going to go away, because it is.
That's beautiful advice, by the way, beautiful.
You're going to get over her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Wellness is another place. You've always been spiritually dealing with all this stuff, but now, I mean, the physical part too.
Yeah.
Keeping yourself healthy, active, all of these things, and you're kind of putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, look, I went through a period I wasn't myself anymore. I worked so many jobs. I was just grinding myself down. It's a cost for success. There's a cost to be successful, but there's a cost to not be successful too. I'd rather pay the cost for success. But I was grinding myself down, man. I was wearing myself out, and I had low energy, brain fogginess all the time. I was just trying to stay up, man. I was struggling, man, with some issues in my gut. I had to go to some holistic doctors. I started finding out I had some problems. And then one day, actually, real true story, I was in a beanbag in the basement with my kids. And one of my grandkids came in and said, "Papa, come play." And I went, okay. And I had to get out the beanbag chair. That beanbag chair was whooping my ass. That beanbag chair was winning. It's like I was in a wrestling match on the floor with this beanbag. I said, wait a minute. And when I finally got out the beanbag, I looked over and my 3 sons was laughing. And they never laughed at me before. Oh. Because I've always been the heavyweight champ at my house. Right. You don't laugh at me because even to this day, my sons still can't whoop me. No, not really. Not in a real fight. They don't have the same thing. And I just got up and I went, wow, something's wrong. And so I said, man, I got to do something about it. So I started talking to some holistic doctors because I love a lot of natural approaches, right? And they told me that I had to feed myself on a cellular level. And so I started taking these green drinks and all this stuff. And I started feeling better, but I couldn't keep it up because I just didn't like them. I mean, some days I just can't gag down this damn green drink. I know it's good for me, but it don't taste good. And so I found this company. And I started talking to them, and I know they had released this bone broth that I was drinking and everything. And I said, hey, I got an idea. I wish that I could find a green drink that did more than the one I was drinking. I need for you to help me with this brain fog that I was having. I need you to help me with my energy levels, and I want to take care of my gut issues. And so I met this guy from Harvard who was a formulator, and we started talking. And over a year and a half, he said, man, that's what I do. And he started putting formulas together. And I didn't like this one. I didn't like that one. He came back. He said, I did this, but I didn't add that. I said, no, you got to add this.
Add it all.
And he put it all together. And then I said, now, here's the deal. It's got to taste good because I can't gag down another green drink. I said, man, I need flavor. And so he made it in some flavors. And then I went to them and I said, hey, can we mass produce this and make it affordable? So I came out with this product. And what I started doing was I started using it myself, and I found my energy just started skyrocketing again. I felt better. Yeah. After got to take it for a while. You don't drink one glass and all of a sudden you can go run a marathon. Let's not be stupid here. But over the course of a month or so, I really noticed a change, man, and this drink is really...
You're speaking to the right person. Brain fog is like a thing, man. It's real.
I got to get up every morning and do a radio show from 6 to 10.
Yes.
And then I got to go do TV all day.
See?
So I found that this green drink, man, if you do it every day, it's really, really helpful.
Steve Harvey, you are full of beautiful wisdom. I love you. Thank you, Steve.
It's a fast-paced world. It is no surprise that according to the CDC, nearly 40% of Americans say they feel symptoms of anxiety and depression.
So we decided to do something. Over the next couple of days, we're going to share innovative ways to get calm, reduce your stress and anxiety, and live happier, healthier lives. One can be so simple. All you have to do is breathe.
Children get to shut their eyes and throw tantrums when they're stressed out or unhappy. But that does not work for adults. And according to a recent study by the World Health Organization, the pandemic triggered a 25% increase in anxiety and depression globally. But if we want to go from here to here, we're going to need a collective calm down.
People are looking for a different way to work, maybe not the same 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Maybe we're looking for a different way to find peace.
One solution, science suggests just breathe. The age-old practice of breathing meditation is not new, but it's being looked at in a whole new way. Neuroscientists say controlled breathing can reduce stress, increase alertness, and boost our immune systems.
Welcome, friends.
And breathing meditation classes are gaining momentum all across the country, with countless tutorials going viral on social media.
What are you grateful for?
Employers like Nike and even NASA are catching on, offering workshops to help employees reduce stress.
What a beautiful group of humans. Hi.
So Al and I thought we'd try a little deep breathing of our own at New York's Frequency Breathwork.
So we're bringing really democratic mental health medicine to the masses.
Like so many of us, Viv Rosenthal was once a stressed and anxious former executive. But after discovering breathwork, she vowed to make a change. Now, a teacher herself, she spreads the gospel of calm.
When I wake up in the morning, I think about meditation. I do 20 minutes each morning. I feel like if I do that, my day is level set.
I find that whenever I've done these guided things, whatever, I just end up falling asleep.
So we'll put one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly.
Rounding out our group, a few open-minded Today Show staffers tag along.
We keep talking about anxiety, and there's a lot of stress. To imagine that breathing's the key to unlocking it. It's like a magic trick, really.
Just entering the room without walls feels both cozy and freeing, and the instructions are simple.
Let's bring a smile to our face.
Taking 2 breaths through the mouth, we fill our bellies and then our chests before exhaling. We continue as Rosenthal talks us through the journey.
Picture yourself as a little girl or boy. Yogis have been breathing in caves since the dawn of time. We're now rediscovering the power of the breath. Breathwork is the fastest way to create an emotional shift from an emotion that's gripping you to feeling like more present. Release.
As we settle into this circular breathing, Rosenthal's words, the sounds, and the kaleidoscope above add to the mood. It may look strange, but we are on a roller coaster. At times, our heart's pounding. Then there are moments of reflection. Many feel tingling in the limbs and a sense of floating. It's what they call a non-ordinary state of consciousness. The experience brings several of us to tears. Rosenthal says crying and laughing is common. I did both at the same time, and I can't explain why. Enhancing the moment, Rosenthal says music, also known as a sound bath, helps create new pathways that rewire your mind.
The breath opens us up, as does sound. And sound also has a vibration, it has a frequency, and it helps shift our mood. It's really cathartic.
The idea that you can breathe in certain ways and you feel a wave of emotion. You're like, how is that possible? Your body itself is taking emotions and stress and stuff you've been stuffing down. And by the simple act of breathing, it's like free.
I feel grounded, centered, and extremely grateful.
A totally unique and eye-opening lesson in what can happen when we let go and allow ourselves room to breathe.
If you think you know Kim Kardashian from that reality show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I'm just here to say you don't know nothing yet about Kim. Kim Kardashian, she's a brand, a multi-billion-dollar brand with nearly 300 million followers on social media. She is the co-founder of a perfume collection, a makeup line, and so much more. But the biggest seller for Kim Kardashian is herself. People cannot get enough of this woman, of her family, her lifestyle, her choices. And while, yes, she is in the midst of a hectic work schedule, and she's also in the middle of a divorce from Kanye West, the father of her 4 kids, she's calmer than she seemed in a decade. She is in a new relationship with comedian and Saturday Night Live cast member Pete Davidson. She just launched another campaign for her shapewear line, Skims, and her famous family, well, they're about to embark on a new chapter of the reality show, The Kardashians. This time it's on Hulu. So what is Kim Kardashian making space for these days? Well, law school aside, she is making space for herself. Kim, it's so great to see you. I'm so happy that you have time to sit with me today. I've got a podcast called Making Space, and I weirdly feel like you're in a moment in your life where everything is slowing down. Everything seems more peaceful and simpler. And I'm not sure if I'm reading into it, but I'm getting this total vibe about your life today, that there's a more calm going on. Am I right?
There definitely is a lot of calm. I'd say when you have 4 kids, they'll never really fully be calm. Like ever. And I think when people say, oh, you're so much calmer now, or you seem like at peace now, I was definitely at peace and loving not being calm before. I don't think that there's like the two are pit against each other or that one is better than the other. I think at the phase in my life that I was at for the last decade, I've loved and it made me who I am today, and I've grown and evolved, but it was super spontaneous and so much going on and so amazing. I think I just like prefer now to, I work, really hard and long hours and in school. And I think that what I choose to do with my off time now is just probably a little bit more simpler things. And so I feel more of a sense of inner calmness, but my life definitely isn't calm. I think people around me would be like, do you ever take a minute, So yes, there is a calmness for sure, but I loved every phase that I've been in my life.
Not too long ago, I ended a 8-year relationship, and it was not simple. Did you know for a long time that it wasn't the right fit? Were you just continuing, or was it something that kind of came on?
No, I think that, in life, it's especially, I've been divorced before, and it's extremely difficult. I would say getting a divorce with children is a whole other level of pain and hard times that I just didn't even know existed. But I really wanted to make a decision, and it wasn't a quick decision. It wasn't, it was something I think just over time, spending a lot of time apart and realizing, especially during the whole like quarantine time and having to spend a lot of time together after spending so much time apart, you just realize what really makes you happy. And, I think some people might try to think maybe it's a selfish decision because I do have 4 kids and I do want to be mindful of everyone's feelings involved. But I think like for once I was like, I want to really choose my happiness over anything and my peace of mind. And I think something just stuck out to me. My mom used to always like cry to me when I was in these, bad relationships and, college and years ago. And she used to say, all I want for my kids and all I want for you is peace of mind. And when I like woke up and realized that I didn't have that, that's all I was looking for. And so I think that no matter what, it doesn't mean that, everyone didn't try. And it doesn't mean that I don't wish that it, had turned out differently. And there's nothing more than you'd want for everyone to be happy. But I think it also showed a lot of personal strength for me because I was really a people pleaser and I wanted everyone else to be happy, that I finally was like, why am I measuring and trying to make other people happy over myself? And that takes a lot of strength to do, even if you know that it'll make your kids upset as well for a time period. I think, you know, one day they're going to grow up and be out of the house and it's just going to be me and I'm going to have to sit there with my happiness. And I saw, you know, my mom stay in a relationship too long when she wasn't as happy. And I just never wanted to, once I knew for sure in my heart and soul, I realized everyone's going to heal quicker if I just make the move instead of not being my authentic self and not finding my inner peace.
Well, there's a great Alicia Keys song I just heard with Brandi Carlile, and it's called I Have a Voice. And it gives me chills when I hear it because when you're a pleaser, a people pleaser, your voice gets squished down. Sometimes it's so silent you can't even hear it. You don't even whisper to yourself anymore. You're just like, you know what? I'm just going to plod along and go along my merry way. But do you kind of believe that when you are peaceful, your kids will be too? Like it's almost like they feel your total vibe.
Absolutely. I think when you're happy, your kids are happy. And even if it's hard and they don't understand at the time, I mean, I went through it and I understood it eventually with my parents. And I just think there's also, that's as a part of life. And these are also growing lessons and learning lessons for my kids too. And so I think that they will ultimately be better people when they're faced with hard times and faced with real life situations.
How do you trust, this is something for everybody who's been in a relationship that didn't work, and then you see something that might work, but then you think, I'm not sure, I don't know. You get gun shy, you get afraid, I don't want to run, you know, you just get afraid. But it seems to me that you followed some instinct in you, your soul or your spirit or something, that said, yes, this is something to try with Pete.
Yeah, I think that, you know, sometimes things happen when you just least expect it. It was like the last thing that I was really planning on. And so when it did happen, we were kind of like, oh my God, I wasn't like planning on this. And this isn't even what I was thinking of. And like, it just makes it that much sweeter and so much more fun when you just, sometimes you just can't plan everything out and you have to be open to it and you have to like, you know, I definitely took my time. I took like, 10 months or something before I dated or talked to anyone. And I just wanted that time to really figure out and go through the motions. Am I making the right decision? How do I feel about this? Like you'll never know until you're put in situations. And so once I went through all of the motions, I finally was like, okay, guys, I am so ready to meet someone. And I randomly did. And I think you just, like Chloe asked me this question once. She was like, how do you know to trust a person? Yeah. Like, how do you know to trust? And I was like, I've never thought about that. I've always been really trusting. And I've never really had a guard up. But sometimes you just know. And sometimes you just like know when to trust. And so I kind of go with it. And I feel like everything has happened that could possibly happen that is heartbreaking, in all of our lives. I've seen it with my sisters and my mom. And just like we all know someone that's been through a really hard time in relationships. And everyone's been okay. And everyone comes out okay. So you just have to like let yourself go and open yourself up to receive something and just be a good person and you'll get that back. And no matter what, everyone's going to be okay. That's kind of like my outlook on everything with life.
It is. It is. Do you trust yourself again to get married again?
I want to live in the moment. I definitely want to, I do love a relationship. That's the kind of like girl that I am. I don't really want to be, dating around and stuff like that, but I do live in the moment. And I do think that I am holding, a little bit more close to my heart on certain aspects of my relationship with Pete. And it feels good just to know that like we have this connection and we have our little bubble of a relationship world that we live in that like not a lot of people know about.
I think it's cool, even the little things we do know. You go out for pizza. You're like, oh, everything's just cool and regular and not such a big deal.
We were driving in the car yesterday, and I just like looked at him, and I was like, "Thank you." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "For running errands with me. Like this is so much fun, just to like go to a doctor's appointment or go to the dentist and just like run errands. Like I'm having so much fun."
It's like back to the beginning, back to before everything, right?
I mean, and again, like it's not to say that any amazing big experience I had was not so much fun as well and so worth it. It's just like where I'm at in life. I feel like we've worked so hard and we just want to enjoy, you know, different things. Like, and I'm just so content.
That's a beautiful word, by the way. Okay, if you had a day that was just for you, Kim, you woke up, your kids were all being taken care of, Pete was busy.
Where's this day?
You open your eyes, it's a beautiful sunrise. You have one day for Kim, just for Kim. How would you, and no work, how would you fill that day?
Oh my gosh, I would work out because I love to work out.
Yes.
I would hopefully be waking up on the beach somewhere, really beautiful, and just lay in bed all day and watch TV and movies and eat in bed. I'm like such a homebody. I love to stay home.
I love that you eat in bed.
Okay,
some people are totally against that.
I have a dustbuster by my bed in my side table drawer. I hate crumbs in the bed, so I definitely will put down a towel. I have trays. I have the most comfortable trays, and I just eat on the trays, and my dustbuster is always on deck.
Okay, snack of choice in bed?
Oh my God. Well, I'm eating extremely clean now. I love to just eat my dinners and stuff. But I mean, my favorite snacks ever are like Cheetos and cookies and
Stuff
Triscuits and like so many random little things.
Do you feel, I feel like your life is full. Are there things that you feel like you are missing? Any puzzle pieces that aren't quite there yet? If you say, I'm just working toward that. I feel like you have so many irons in the fire that it's hard to quantify, but is there something that you feel like needs to snap into place?
Yeah, I really gotta like get it together with law school. It's really hard. Yeah. I gotta finish. I have like, almost 2 years left, and I study 3 hours a day every day, and it is really hard, and I just can't wait. I keep on saying like, okay, I can't even entertain this business thing or that I can't put another thing on my plate until school is done. I need to finish school, and once that happens, I will be a different human being.
Do you kind of feel that sometimes you're underestimated when you walk into a room, Kim?
Absolutely, and I've always been the underdog, always, and that's okay with me. Like if anything, I like for someone to really be pleasantly surprised and maybe expect less and be blown away when maybe I give them more than they thought that I would ever give them, but that's always just been what people have perceived. And I don't know if that's why I've worked so hard to try to figure it out and to try to show people. I mean, your life changes and what you care about can all change and grow and evolve. And so I really don't mind being the underdog and being thought differently and proving myself, because I think that's what always has like kept that fire under me. Even if I didn't understand it at the time or couldn't understand certain people's decisions, I like applaud people's growth and where they're at. And I really just don't mind being that person and that underdog.
I mean,
people.
Can you just line out, just give me one snapshot of a day? Because I don't think, I know you and I know how hard you work. There's not a person who works harder. Line out your day for me. You wake up and go.
I wake up at 5:40. I go to the gym from 6 to 7. 7:05, get the kids up, get them all ready for school, all 4 of them, help brush their teeth, get their uniforms on, eat breakfast, get them out the door, drive them to school, come back, start glam, or study. It's like I have that few hours study time or glam, or it's vice versa. then I film, and then I either go to a Skims campaign or a Skims fabric meeting, and then I'm, relaunching my beauty brand soon, so it's like formulas and products and packaging and, meetings all day, and then pick the kids up from school, or if I'm in the middle of a shoot or something and I can't, I meet them after school, always have dinner with the kids, and then at nighttime either do my reading for studying for school or just do all my like Skims content and organize. I'm big on organizing and making sure everything's in place. And then I go to bed I put all the kids to bed, and then I'm finally to bed around 10:30 myself. And then the day starts all over again.
Kim started the shapewear brand Skims in 2019, filling a gap in the market with underwear, shapewear, and loungewear for people of all shapes and sizes and skin tones. Today, the company is worth billions. Did you ever imagine that Skims would be a $3.2 billion company?
I did not. I had hopes, obviously. I had such high hopes because I just felt like anytime there's something missing in the marketplace that you're always trying to find a solution for, other people are trying to find that same solution. So when I realized that, in shapewear, there just was not size inclusivity and color tone inclusivity, I just knew that even just like where the seams were and everything that I was changing on shapewear myself and wanting to perfect, I found that creating my own line was just going to be my best bet. And I love every minute of it. I come up with every campaign, every style, every fabric. I'm at every campaign. Like, it's just, even doing the one with my favorite icons, I wasn't supposed to be in that campaign. I just went to go see how they were doing and bring a beignet truck for them as a little treat. And they were like, oh, no, you're getting in this campaign.
You're getting in.
And I was like, oh, my God, what? I wasn't prepared, and I didn't get a spray tan, and I didn't, and they were like, who cares? Get in it.
You're in, and you did.
And I did, and it was so much fun, and I'll have that memory forever. But I just have so many fun ideas that it's like my baby. Anytime I work on something now, it has to be like, I'm so obsessed, it's my baby. I can't, wait to just show people what we have coming, and it's so much fun.
Well, keeping up with the Kardashians, we all we watched as you bid that farewell. And sometimes when something's done, it's done. You just lock the box and say, that was a good ride. See you later, alligator. But something happened. This thing got another life. It's on Hulu. So what was it that made you decide, maybe we're not done yet?
In all honesty, a bidding war from streaming services came in, and we just were like, okay, how can we worked so hard for so many years, and like, it was, it's the best lesson, but then it was just a really good opportunity. And we thought, you know what, let's take a year off. Let's not film for a year, and let's let life happen. And we did. And then we all knew that we were going to miss it. Like, we just were like, it was a bittersweet thing where we just felt like our time on the network was up, and our time just together, like, that was up. And then just coming together again was so much fun. The first day of filming was so weird. We were just, we couldn't believe that we were filming again, and just like the way that we film is a little bit different. I think the viewer would love to just see, or hopefully they'll love it, just how documentary style it is, and just how individual it is, and you see each sister and family member really on their own and kind of separate, and then we kind of all come together, where the last show was like all together all the time. So I think just knowing that it was going to be a little bit different, and that's such a scary thing, like to start over and to, because Keeping Up was so iconic. We're so close to the producers, we loved everyone, and it was like, how do we start over? Are we making such a big mistake? Should we have just left it there? But I think after seeing the edits and seeing how it's shot, and we're so excited, and I'm just so excited for the viewer to see it.
Well, I have to talk about just you and your sisters for 1 second, because I remember it was years ago, but Kathy Lee and I went because Kendall was in a fashion show. She was walking the catwalk, and when we got there, all of you guys were there. There were no cameras. There was nothing. You guys were screaming like it was the first time you'd seen Kendall on the catwalk.
Oh, I know.
And I said in that minute, that's why the show's successful. because they love each other. Camera lights on, camera lights off. They're supporting and they're screaming to her like they had never seen her do it before. And I was cracking up, and Kathy Lee's like, that's how they are, of course. But that's the magic, isn't it? Like, that's the thing that makes people lean in.
Kathy used to say that all the time. She used to say, like, you guys, when we were kids, like
Yeah.
super young, she would be like, I was a teenager, and she would say, like, you guys are insane. Like, where's the camera? Like, reality TV was just starting out, and she was like, you guys just have to have your own show. This is insane.
Yeah. She said it, yeah.
But I think that we're the same, you know, cameras on, like you said, cameras off. I mean, there's not one of my friends from high school that can say I'm any different now than I was back in high school. And I think we've just always maintained that. And I feel so lucky that we've had each other as a family to come up together. I mean, to think about it, we all got our first check together. We all bought our first car together. We all got our first play. Like, we had each other. We all ran into our first celebrity that we were freaking out over. Like, we had every same experience together as a family. So it's like just different than one of us moving out here from, you know, a different state and calling the other sister saying, oh my God, guess who I just met? Or, oh my God, guess what I just got? Like, we kind of were able to share every experience together, which I think is pretty cool and has kept us super grounded. But yeah, we support each other no matter what. We fight just like every family. I mean, I think that when we started filming, we couldn't have even imagined half the stuff that was going to happen and go on in our lives filming. I mean, we thought, how are we going to get to a season 2? We have nothing to film about, you know? And so I just feel lucky that we're starting a new journey on Hulu, and I hope that the fans like it just as much as they liked Keeping Up.
I feel like we're rushing 100 miles an hour. And I feel like, you know, they talk about how the top layer of the ocean is very, very tumultuous. But if you go down deep, it's calm and it's peaceful. And up on the top layer, they say it's the things you got to do. I got to pick up the kids. I got to go to work. I got to get to the meeting. I got to check on the skims. But if you go deeper, it's calm and peaceful. What do you hope to make space for in this coming year in your life?
I just hope to make as much space for my kids, to be honest. I try to spend so much time with them. I actually hope to make space for myself, too, just to have, you know, a little vacay without the kids maybe, or, you know, just, I think that's super important, is to always make space for yourself, but to make space for your kids when they really need you, and just make sure that you're there to do homework, and all the little things add up to the big things. So I just, I do make space for that, and I just want to continue to do that.
Yeah, my favorite parenting hack when I'm asking my kids something is, the only thing I say to them is, tell me more. That's it. My only line to them, and then all of a sudden, out comes the entire day.
Yeah.
When I start asking them specifics, they're like, I don't know, nothing. Tell me more. And they go, let me think of some. Oh, guess what happened, Mom? And they tell me some beautiful story.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that from you.
It's a good one. Kim, I love you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Oh, my gosh. Love you. Thank you for having me.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
If there is one thing I've learned in my life, it's the importance of the people you surround yourself with. And maybe you know by now, Maria Shriver is one of the friends I hold so dear to my heart. She is my go-to at any time I'm in a crossroads or in a funk. One call to her, and suddenly my mental load feels lighter. But this Maria you're about to hear from is not like the Maria you met in the past. We go deep. She is candidly reflecting on topics we haven't heard from her, on everything from growing up a Kennedy to navigating life after divorce. And guys, she's just so full of wisdom. Once you're touched by Maria's insight, you'll never look at life quite the same way. For everyone who's listening, I'd get a pen and paper ready, because I feel like you do this thing where you drop all these little wisdom bombs. Just today, you said something about, I was explaining to you how sometimes people poke me in a way that is painful, whether it's
somebody who I knew a long time ago, or somebody who I work with, or whatever.
I said, when this is actually a teacher who taught me, he said to me, think of that person as your teacher. They are actually bringing up something in you that needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
They are teaching you how to handle whatever comes up in your interaction with that person. And he was saying, instead of being irritated by that person, look at them as your teacher and try to understand what's happening in you. In you, because it's always about what you're supposed to get, and how you can heal whatever is going on in you, because it needs to be healed. Everything that I've learned in this journey of life is that, which I wish I had known actually so much younger, is that everybody is coming through as a teacher. And that if you could look at them that way, it actually demystifies them in some way. It takes away some of the irritation about them. And this person came to teach me about my pain.
Yeah.
This person came to teach me about strength that I didn't know I had.
Yeah. And I think one of the cool things about you is you are a learner and a teacher. You just recently talked to the coach from Duke.
Right. For your show.
For our show.
All right, here we go. Let's go. Motion.
Head coach Kara Lawson is changing the game.
Hit the guard on the tight curl.
Not just for her players on the Duke women's basketball team.
Good. Good.
But for everyone, thanks to her message captured during a team practice earlier this year and posted on social media that went viral.
You wait for stuff to get easier. It will never get easier. What happens is you handle hard better. So that's a mental shift that has to occur in each of your brains. It has to. Because if you go around waiting for stuff to get easier in life, it's never going to happen.
What did you learn about life from her?
First of all, I think we all need coaches in some way, right? It's not just the person who's on the basketball team or the football team. And I always looked at coaches on those young people and thought, God, I wish I had that now at this age. Somebody coaching me forward, right? She said, I was focused on only 17 people. And it went to tens of millions of people. Jeez. And she said, I think people focus a lot of the time on I have to impact the world. And just focus on the 1, 5, 17 people you want to focus on, and then leave the rest kind of up to God. I always say up to God. Yeah. Coach Lawson said, I am here to remind people that they have done hard things and they can do more hard things. And what I took away from that was I've actually done hard things. I don't give myself credit for the hard things that I've already done, which then encourages me or inspires me. I can do more hard things because I've done them. I forget about them.
Yeah.
And I took that away, that we're capable of doing hard things in our future because we've done them to get to where we are.
Right. Look at us sitting here. And I like that. Don't go wide, go deep.
Yeah, she's like, I wasn't talking to anybody else. She said, because I took her speech and put it up on my Instagram, and she goes, I for sure wasn't talking to Maria Shriver.
Isn't that interesting?
But I ended up talking to her. And I was like, that is so wise. Just focus on the kid that's in front of you, the friend that's in front of you. I did not grow up with that message. And I have found in my life that what fills me up, what makes me feel good, is not what I thought when I was 20 or 30. It's I'm talking to you, somebody's talking to me. And that's kind of, I think, a secret that people don't talk about enough.
When did you start on this journey of figuring out who you were? Because I would imagine with all your kids in your life, you were just getting through.
I've actually thought a lot about, and I'm on a continual quest actually to learn about myself, why I'm here, and how I'm moving through the world and its effect on my small world, right? And so I've often thought about, was I always curious? And the answer is yes, I was always curious, which is why journalism was so great for me. I think I've had a couple big pillar moments. I think when my dad lost, he was the vice presidential nominee on the McGovern ticket, and that was a huge, hard lesson about politics for me.
Which
it was, that it was, for me, loss, grief, it was assassinations. It kind of confirmed for me, like, oh, I don't want anything to do with this. It's not real. It's not honest. It's not what it pretends to be. And the journalism lesson was, that I could put my whole heart and soul, I could work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and they could decide on a whim it was over and I'm out the door, right? And certainly I wanted to have a different kind of marriage than my parents had. I wanted to have a different kind of life than my parents did. And the ending of all of that definitely sent me on a journey to reevaluate everything in my life, every aspect of my life, and how I had gotten where I was, what was my role in it, what could I do better, what had I done that put me in that place. I looked at my religion. I looked at the judgments of my religion. I looked at my own judgments. I looked at myself as a woman. I looked at everything. And I did everything that was available that I could find to heal myself. And I still look at myself as on a healing journey. I think I just kind of have tried to dig deep and to understand that how I work in the world has a lot to do with how I feel about myself. And I didn't connect those two things. I was raised with just go out and try to work on the world and don't worry if you're upset or angry or resentment or any of these things. And then to actually turn that journey onto myself and into myself and then connect it to how I go out in the world has been a glorious journey for me.
I remember once you were talking to me and you said you were trying to separate what you believed as and wondering like what you believed inside or what things your parents put in you when you were a kid. Parents put things in us when we were a kid and we say, I always believe X. So you were discovering, I still remember you were combing through stuff in your life, like what do I actually believe and what stuff was taught to me so much and drummed into me that became part of my DNA. How did you break through all that stuff?
I think, we all at some point go through that, right? We all wonder, like, is this my opinion or is this my parents' opinion or is this, just something I heard and adapted? And I think that's a gradual process. I grew up in this big Democratic family and I was taught to believe that people who were Republicans, were the enemy. And then I fell in love with a Republican and I was like, what? Whoa, and then everybody in my family is like, I could see people in my family having judgments about, the person that I was choosing hadn't gone to the same kind of schools that people I grew up with and wasn't the same political party and wasn't this and wasn't that. And then I started wondering about judgments. I started thinking about, gosh, we all judge people that are different from us. So that I began kind of thinking about that. Then I moved to Los Angeles and my family was like, oh my God, you would have thought I had, I don't know what I had done. My mother was like, you're in Hollywood and that's terrible. And that's, and I was like, is it? I don't know, And so I think that, I feel blessed to have had obviously the parents that I had, but they're very different than me. And I have some similarities to both of them. But I have tried to pick apart, and I wanted to be, as I said, a different kind of mother, a different kind of wife. And I've only, in my adulthood, tried to kind of be a different kind of woman. And I realized I thought I was so much like my mother in so many ways. And now I'm looking at things like I'm like my mother, but I'm very different from my mother.
How are you the same?
I think we're both restless. I think we're both determined. She came up very much in a man's world. And when I was starting out, certainly in journalism, it was very much of a male profession. So I adapted this like, okay, fight.
Right.
And I remember a guy I was working with, it was a teacher, and he said, what are you fighting? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm fighting. And he's like, what? And I was like,
I don't know.
I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, you ought to be thinking about what you're fighting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's old. And you're bringing the fight, to the room, and you've already won that fight, and it's old. It's over.
You're in the room now.
And you're in the room. And so you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
And no one had ever said to me,
wow.
It's like my friend Martha Beck, I was like, I got to hurry up and do this. And she goes, where are you hurrying up to? Where are you rushing to? And I was like, I got to get this done. I get this. She goes, well, but why? And I was like, yeah.
If you really break it down.
So I've actually tried to slow down.
Yeah.
Because I'm a different person when I'm going slow.
Yeah.
Everybody's rushing and they have their face in their phone and they're, running through their life. And I did that. And I don't remember a lot of it because I was running through. And so now I try to go slower so I can remember the conversations. I can remember the moments. I can remember the people.
Right. Okay. You told me how you're the same as your mom. How are you different?
I'm not as angry as my mom.
Yeah.
I don't have as much rage as my mom.
Yeah.
I've been able to delve into that in a way she couldn't. She wasn't given the opportunity, or she didn't know that it existed there. So I have a very different spirituality. I think I have, she was deeply religious, and I think I'm deeply spiritual. I've been able to explore my femininity in ways I think my mother never could. I think I'm a more kind of physically affectionate mother than my mother was.
Was it hard or awkward in the beginning if you didn't receive it to give it, or was
No, because I knew that I didn't receive it, and I needed to give it.
You needed to, yeah.
Because it was a big thing for me not to get it.
Yeah.
And I think I also say that my mother was probably not the recipient of it either.
Yeah.
And that we talked about breaking cycles in our families, and that's a cycle I wanted to break.
How was your mom with your kids?
Very different than she was with the five of us. I have four brothers and myself. And so she was able to take more time. I think my mother was in a real rush. When I was little, her brother was president. She was trying to build a worldwide organization. She was trying to change the world. And I think that's really hard to push up against that 24/7 and, bounce the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I always said to myself, I knew that my kids, would end up in therapy at some point, but I knew that they wouldn't be able to say she wasn't there. They could say she was this, or this, but I didn't want them to say that I had chosen something over them. I wanted them to know that they were my priority, and I wanted them to feel that.
One thing that you're doing right now as we speak is we hear a lot about raising kids up and the right way to raise them up, but there's not a whole lot said about how to raise or continue to raise adult children.
Right.
I've seen people, when you were on the show, asking about that, and it doesn't get a whole lot of attention.
I know. Well, I was just actually talking about that. All the parenting books are, for 5 and under, or teenagers, and I think it's complicated with adult children. And I know people say, 18 out the door.
Yeah.
Cut them off, let them go. There's that philosophy. I've tried to kind of look at my home as a fueling station where people can come back and get the love they need, the food they may need, the encouragement and nourishment that they may need, and then to go out into the world. And the truth. The truth.
You always tell them the truth?
Yeah, the truth. The truth that they may not get someplace else. And I think I did not get a lot of talking when I was growing up. I think that's why I started writing books, because I didn't, there were things going on in my family that nobody talked about. And I think that was really detrimental, because you'd say, I would hear things in the zeitgeist, and I'd come home and I'd go, is that true? Or and no, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. And or when, my uncles were killed, we're like, we don't talk about that. We just move right along. And I'm like, yeah, but somebody just, nope, let's go. Do you want to go sailing now? Do you want to talk about something else? And I'd be like,
okay.
Okay.
So you buried it.
So I buried it, and I buried it, and I buried it. And whatever you bury comes out. And so I think learning about that helped me. And I think also wanting to talk and realizing I was in a family that was well known that didn't talk about it. So where could I talk about it? Because I didn't want to talk about my family. So I masqueraded it in the books.
Isn't that interesting?
So I talked to the world
about
grief, about heaven, about intellectual disability, about Alzheimer's in my children's book or in my reporting, so I could talk about what I couldn't talk about at home.
Wow. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
And then when did you start just saying, okay, well, I'm just telling the truth. Like, that's how I'm going to go through life.
I think I started feeling like I had the freedom or the permission when my marriage ended. I first, felt like, I better go and figure out, like, what is the truth? And I went to a convent I did like so many things, but one of the things I did is I went to a convent to be in silence and, to look for advice. And the Reverend Mother there said to me at the very end, she said, I think you came here looking for permission. And I felt like I was in a scene out of The Sound of Music, which had been like, I was like, oh, what? She goes, you can't come live here. And she goes, but you do have permission to go out and become Maria. And I was like,
Chills.
Sobbing. And I'm like, who's that? I was like, who is that? And so I think the word permission, I had never given myself permission to feel, to be vulnerable, to be weak, to be brought to my knees. And the world did it to me. And then I was like, okay, God, like, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this and learn everything I can about my role and what I need to learn. When something like that or the universe knocks you like that, I think you have to like not focus on the other person, just figure out like, what is your learning curve? What do you need to learn from this experience? And so I gave myself permission to start learning.
You talked about, I was asking you about raising up adult kids.
Yeah, just about giving them a place to come home and nurture. Yeah, that's what I feel that is my role. And I'm learning a role as a Mama G.
Yeah.
How do I roll with my children's relationships? Do I give my opinion? Do I not?
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
But I don't keep
Right, you give it once.
I'm giving maybe twice.
But you let them know.
Yeah, I let them know, and then I have to step out because it's not my life. And watching your kids fall and make mistakes and everything is painful. And that's the other thing I've learned, actually, that I wish somebody had told me very young, is the joyful and painful. The greatest thing ever, and it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. So it's a lot of holding both things on any given day.
Yes.
The and.
That's good. That's good.
Not but and.
If you're listening and you haven't read Maria's Sunday paper, please read it. I look forward to it every Sunday morning. And the one, you've had so many brilliant ones, but there was one about when people feel invisible.
Yeah.
And that struck me. And it actually surprised me to hear you say that about yourself. Like, I was reading that and you talking about when you were next to Arnold, sometimes people would reach across you as if you weren't there to get to him.
That's a big story of my life, actually, feeling invisible. I grew up feeling invisible in an incredibly public, famous family. So if you, as a child, are standing next to the President of the United States, 2 U.S. senators, the First Lady, nobody's looking at you. You are background noise. And you take that with you really through life, and you end up putting yourself in situations where that continues until you learn your lesson. That it's not about other people seeing you. It's about you seeing yourself. And that took me a really long time to learn. And so I would find myself getting angry at people, you know, who came up and didn't acknowledge that I existed. When I was standing next to Arnold, or when I was standing next to, you know, my uncle or something, I'd be like, ah. And then I was like, they're teaching me a lesson, that it's not about whether they see me. Do I see me? Am I visible to me? I thought what made people feel seen was winning an Emmy, getting an award, getting a book, being on TV. But what actually makes people feel seen and worthy is talking to them, sitting with them, calling them, slowing down, sitting on the porch going, I don't have anywhere to go. Oh my God. I'm right here with you, and you are enough.
It's funny because you're talking about relationships, parent, work, spouse, all that stuff. You are doing these things are amazing. It's radically reframing. And now you're doing radically reframing relationships.
Yeah.
How do you radically reframe
relationships?
Yeah,
well,
like
I think they are already being radically reframed. I mean, I look at my kids in their 20s and 30s, their marriages, their relationships or not marriages are so radically different than my generation. How people get in and out of friendships. You know, people in midlife understanding they need new friendships, delving out into friendships, understanding that friendships take work, and then also looking at the different kinds of relationships that exist that you need.
It does take real work.
It does, yeah.
Are you expanding? Like, tell me about your friendship circle, or do you kind of...
I'm not, no. I mean, I wish... I feel like, you know, there was my college friends, my high school friends, and then, you know, when I had little kids, there were like all the mommies. Friends. Then all my kids left, right? Yeah. So then all of a sudden, kind of a lot of the school mommy friends left too, right? They drifted off. And I found like at work, most of the people other than us are like 20. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so I'm conscious of the fact that I want to make sure the friends I do have, that I'm going deep.
And the other thing that I feel like is so big with you is you're radically reframing aging.
Yes, that's very important to me.
It was so important, but yeah.
Yeah, because we're all aging, right? Yeah. A lot of it is such a state of mind. But your mindset about who you are, what you're capable of, whether your best days are in front of you, that's so important to be able to think positively about the aging experience. It's a blessing. It's a gift to keep reminding yourself, as opposed to looking in the mirror and going like, damn, who's that? Because we all have that critical voice, right? And it's never, or certainly mine has never been kind to me. And so I have to catch myself all the time like, you're okay.
Yeah, you got this.
You got this. You're never going to be this young again.
Yeah.
So enjoy it.
There's a person I see occasionally walking around, and she's always like, "Oh God, getting old's a pain," and I don't think that way. I mean, I just feel like
you're so optimistic. You're so upbeat. Yeah. You're so positive. And so that's such a great thing to be around because that's contagious and that makes you feel also good about yourself, right? If you're around somebody, their energy, like we were talking the other night, walks into the room before they do.
Yes. And you feel them coming in.
Right.
You feel
it's big.
Yeah. Yeah. I love speaking to you.
Are we finished?
I don't want it to be.
We made space. You made space.
Maria, I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks for coming to see me.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.